Parts of the final missive are illegible. Water damage? They also look as if they have been frequently handled. Aberdeen, 25th of March, 1746. Dearest Anna, everything goes very well with me here, apart from the appalling weather. The training of the men moves forward apace. They can all fire, I am satisfied to say, 3 rounds a minute in all conditions. We also drill them very hard in the new uses of the bayonet. This is essentially a system of mutual defense. Instead of simply striking forward, the men are to strike forwards and to the right, trusting that the comrade to his left will do him the same service. In this way, it is hoped, the poets will catch the brigands under their upraised sword arms, and also avoid the round oak and bull-hide shields, called targets, many of the rebels use. Anna, I can almost hear your exclamations. In the middle of this century, white tribesmen, who still carry shields and follow chiefs, like something from Tacitus or Caesar. Perhaps appropriate, as the rebels are of the same race oft mentioned by those sources. I hope to be able to tell you soon that we have put paid to these atavistic hillmen. Aberdeen, 26th of March, 1746. Beloved Anna, thought I would have to put Sergeant Major Patterson under close arrest. He beat 2 English privates from young Major Wolfe's brigade half to death. It seems they were in drink, and had been saying that all Scots are traitors at heart. Also, frightening the other men with tales about the ferocity of the rebels' attacks. They are both among those who were at the lamentable debacles at Prestonpans and Falkirk. But our young Major Wolfe is a good fellow. He intervened on Patterson's behalf, saying that he thought he had delivered them a necessary lesson. Evening of the same day. 2 companies of Argyll militia and a large number of English horses came into camp. They had carried out a successful raid deep into rebel territory. Laden down with plunder, they also drove many cattle along. The effect on morale has been good. The Argyll men were a picturesque sight, dressed and armed as are the rebels, but with black cockades on their hats, not traitor white. Some of them also had usual red coats, but wore them open, cape-like on their shoulders, in an amusingly disgraceful way. It was almost possible to hear Patterson grinding his teeth at the sight of them, even over the sound of the pipes. He stood there, his face thunderous. I said to him, "The Campbells, I presume?" He said this to me, "Yes, and their dogs, the Macmillan, Macaulay, Blacks, Smiths, and Sinclairs, and the other trash. Not one of those skirted knaves over there who doesn't have relatives with the enemy. Even the big Cameron chief is married to an Argyll woman. They're all the same. The badness is in the blood." I pressed him about this, Anna. I felt you would have wished me to. I pointed out that there are a good number of English and Lowland Scotch with the rebels, and that I had heard my fellow officers say that the South Highland militia were reliable fellows. I would perhaps have said more. "Well, sir, I think those men are probably all Catholics, or other kinds of criminals. But the clan's down, and they will disappear under the rocks, never to be seen again. I then asked him that which I think you would have wished me to, namely, what he would wish to see done, to finally settle what is sometimes called in Parliament the Highland question. Here is what he said. If it were up to me, sir, send all the women and children off to America. Let the Redskins have them, and ship the men and bigger boys off to the East Indies as troops. Let fever and the tigers whittle them down, burn every roof in the hills off, and give it over to sheep. We march tomorrow. Culloden House, 16th of April, 1746. Late evening. Anna. We later learned that many of the rebels had not eaten for 2 or 3 days, and were also exhausted from the abortive ambuscade on our camp the night. The Duke moved up 2 brigades from the 2nd and 3rd lines and placed them on the extreme right. We were on the left. Besides Barrel, and Wolfe was placed to Barrel's left, at right angles to the main line, in an enclosure, to enfilade and invalid their attack. On Wolfe's own left, all 4 companies of Argylls were ordered forwards, with a strong force of cavalry. The militia had orders to tear down the stone walls. We had thus already turned them on almost both flanks before the round shot had played upon them for almost an hour. Finally, they could stand no more. They came out over the wind and sleet-lashed moor, a perfect field of fire, dead flat. Came at us in the strange, full-on, full-run charge we had been warned of. Came for us like troops of hungry wolves. They were screaming like fiends, like the devils of hell. The gunners switched to grape shot. This galled them very much. Through the smoke I saw their centre veer towards the right. I was minded of a great flock of birds of prey, wheeling, strange impressions in battles. They collided with the right wing, which was already congested against the park of the house's walls, and they became a perfect shambles. All the time the guns tore great holes in the heaving mass. Imagine, Anna, a man running pell-mell at you with a sword, or raised for strokes, and then it is as if he is pulled back all of a sudden by a rope, and he comes apart, an old scarecrow torn down. This is what grapeshot does, and dozens, hundreds at once. Through the stinking maelstrom, we gave them platoon volleys all up and down the line, the muskets never off the shoulders, envisaged one of the great sails of the king's ships being rent apart. That is the noise. But continual flashes of fire. Still, they came on. I have long been a soldier. You know my service. All ordinance of modern warfare says that cover the ground before 3 or 4 deep and an enemy stops. But those men and boys were piled up 6, 7, 8 deep before us, and still they came. You will read in the newspapers about the brevity of the affair, and because it's in the newspapers, they will talk of that forever. But it gives no impression of the intensity of the They smashed into us. I can see the faces contorted with rage and despair. Not one of my men's bayonets was not soon bent and bloody. Sergeant Patterson saved my life. But then the backswing of a broadsword took off the top of his head, as you would take off the top of an egg. They ploughed through barrel and through my extreme left, but second line stood firm and came up, dropped between us. I wheeled the battalion to the left. We were still in relative good order. We gave them fire. We were pouring the shot into them from almost 4 directions, almost 5. Finally, they could stand no more. They turned and ran. But a half musket shot. Many of them slowed and turned. They meekly offered their backs. And still, the cannon and the volleys. They turned and ran again. Away ahead, the militia and cavalry poured onto the field and into them above the noise. The Argyll men's cries of Cruachan and Ben More. The entire army advanced forwards. We were like a red wall. I will never talk about what happened later. Never. And I exile myself from our nation too. I'm not fit for your society, never mind fit to touch you. It is because you are everything that was good in me that I remove myself, that the others can live with, fills me with loathing, and I don't fully understand why. We killed. A barn set on fire. Was it Patterson's death? May God forgive me.